This time in the Magic Kitchen, we are bringing you our seasonal episode, Kitchen Witch's Hearth, Winter Edition.
I'm Leandra Witchwood.
And I'm Elise Wells.
And welcome to the Magic Kitchen podcast, where we talk about magic, kitchen witchcraft, herbs,
and everything in between.
The Magic Kitchen podcast is funded and supported by thewitchwoodteahouse.com, offering a variety of hand-blended loose leaf teas as well as loose herbs for all of your ritual, spell work, wellness, and everyday enjoyment needs. If you would like to support this podcast while sipping a great cup of tea, head over to thewitchwoodteahouse.com and find the magic that's in store for you.
Welcome to the Magic Kitchen. Today, we are diving into winter. Winter is a time that's very fond in my mind. I love winter, and so many people don't. Like, if you're rolling your eyes right now, you are definitely in the majority.
I'm raising my hand.
I love it. I love winter. And actually, this winter I'm staying in the US, which I usually am in Greece. And in Greece we have a winter version. It's called winter, but it's not really that cold. Like, it's not going to drop below freezing. We're very rarely going to get snow. My very first Christmas in Greece, we actually had flurries in the air, but because we're at the seaside, it's not going to stick.
No.
So it's a very different experience. And I don't love it. I do not like Christmas, Yuletide. Just the whole season to me has to have the calm and the quiet. And that's the thing, is in Greece, it's actually a growing season. It's the time of year when my favorite fruit, so I do miss that, is in season, persimmons. And it's a growing season. Like I always say the air there smells in the winter, smells like the air in March in the West here on like the East Coast of the US. So yeah, it just throws me off. I just don't like it. I like my 4 seasons. I like the quarters. And then the 8ths, breaking those down. Because I think that's the strength of the Wheel of the Year, is it's 6-week seasons instead of these like long, 2.5 month or whatever it is. Like it's not accurate. Like March 22nd being the start of spring, and then June 20th being the beginning of summer. It's like, think of the differences between our lives, March to June.
Oh, big time.
And so the 6-week seasons of the Wheel of the Year, just they flow so nicely. And like for me, Yule, this 6-week season that we're in now, it's just it's so special. It's so, I hate this word. I hate using it in this way, but I can't think of a different word right now, but it's pregnant with potential.
Yeah.
Like it's this,
you're right.
It's this void. And we both were recently a part of Wendy Mata's Bruja Botanica. They hosted a winter witches party.
Yes.
And that was, I kicked it off. I was the first presentation of the whole event. And I started on this note of like, let's learn to connect to the warmth of winter. I taught some breath work for warming. And I also had a meditation to meet with the spirit of winter. And I'm actually going to be giving that meditation away as a Yule gift. So if you are not already, you can sign up for my newsletter on seekingnumina.com. And on Christmas Eve, on Tuesday, you will get that straight to your inbox. It's a video recording of me guiding you through this meditation, because we all need it. We all need a reminder. Like, I'm going to be using it in mid-January. I know. Because I say how much I love winter, but then as soon as the holiday season's over and the lights are put down and like it's a little dark. It's a little dark.
And I think that's my issue with winter, is the darkness and the cold. Like, I'm from California, Mediterranean climate, right?
The irony,
yeah. And we actually, with Nicholas Pearson, we had this conversation in the Witches Winterfest about being in these more tropical or Mediterranean climates where you really don't have the four seasons. You have colder version of summer and maybe fall, maybe spring.
Yeah. And he's in Florida, so he gets it. Yeah,
exactly. So he we were both discussing like growing up in these climates, like you don't get that traditional, snow, the flocking on the trees and the quietness. That's one thing I do like. Okay, so I don't completely hate winter. I do like some aspects of it, but like you, when it gets old, it gets old. Like I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Like about mid-January, I'm absolutely done with it. I'm done with the cold. I'm done with having to put on a ton of layers. I'm done with having the layers on, going into the store and then being roasting hot because it's warm in the store, and then having to take off the layers. But before you leave the store, you have to put on the layers, and then you get in the car and you're stuck with all these layers and you're like, I can't move. Yeah. So that's the part I don't like. And then plus, it's just in my area, it's not so bad, but like you don't have so many birds. You don't have too many, you don't have the greenery. And that's what I miss. I love the greenery. That's spring and fall are my absolute favorites. I guess maybe growing up in California has acclimated me to the milder times of the year, the milder climates. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of winter. So digging into things that make me feel uplifted in the wintertime is really my go-to. So feeding the birds, making bird feeders, which I on the Magic Kitchen blog site, there is a recipe for making your own bird feeders. So you can, it's completely baked. So the bird feeder itself, the portion where you put the seeds in is actually biodegradable. So it'll all either get eaten or deteriorate and go back into the earth. So I do those kinds of things where I feel connected to the earth, even though it's kind of sleepy. It's kind of, I don't know, that seasonal depression, that you get. I think that's a real thing. I know it's a real thing.
Yeah. And
so many people get it. So doing things that uplift us are very important. Drinking a nice cup of tea that really helps you feel supported and nurtured and nourished is one of those things that I go to.
I think one of the most impactful things we can do right now, like if you're listening to this before the holiday season wraps up, if you're in a place of joy and happiness and enjoyment of winter, make some plans for yourself for those dark days to come in January. If you know that that's your pattern and it's a common one, you're not alone. Those are I guess that's actually two things. So the first thing I'd say is set your statements, like do make some affirmations for yourself in those times that you can use. Write them down on Post-it notes and have them ready to stick up on your mirror. Minimize how much work it'll be for you to jump into these routines that you're going to put forward, so that it doesn't feel hard. Because that's the thing is once we're already, a lot of times we don't know we're in the dumps until we're in them. And then we don't have the energy to do anything about it. So while we're in these times of rapture and joy, it's important to like lay out some things. And I call this like past me, like past Elise, like when I like for example, when you and I went to Longwood Gardens and I was like, oh my gosh, I need a tissue. I found tissues in my pocket. And I was like, oh my gosh, past Elise. She had my back.
Just thinking
Thank
ahead.
you.
Yeah.
She's like, thanks, girl. And then I think that way in the present. I'm like, okay, what would future Elise need? How can I show up for her? And you start to feel like your own micro community. Yeah. And you feel so supported by yourself. And that self-love piece kind of comes in as a side bonus. But yeah, I love like looking out for future Elise. Yeah. And that's what I would recommend right now if you are in joy, if you're really feeling the Christmas spirit. So if you're in joy right now, that's one thing to do is like make some plans for yourself. Maybe even create a spell jar while you're in this joyful place that you can, think, oh my gosh, this would be so fun. Make it a snow globe instead of a spell jar. You can use glycerin. Yeah. Isn't it glycerin and water? Is that it? Or is it just glycerin?
I don't remember.
But it's not hard. I've done this with like my mother-in-law. We used to do this when my step-in-laws were young. we would make snow globes at Christmas. And I think it's just glycerin. But yeah, you can get like the little glitter. Any glitter works.
Yeah.
Glycerin, a jar that can seal itself. That's it. That's all you actually need. And then you can put things in it. Like we put little fake trees in there. Yeah. If you had a fully dried plant, that could also potentially work in there, but it's going to get weird because of the glycerin. Decompose. So unfortunately, like fully dry and sealed like wood items would work. Or you could actually just like buy, I know this is like not biodegradable, but you could buy like for like model train sets or doll houses, those little things, glue them to the lid of a jar and like do that and make like a spell snow globe instead of a spell jar for winter warmth. Yeah. Oh, that just came to me. I love that. I'm going to make a note for myself to write an article about that for next winter's magazine season. Yeah. Because I write for Which Way magazine, Witchology magazine, Wild Hunt. I definitely should write that up for next winter.
Yes.
And that's my other advice is start putting your roots into community while you're in this positive time. And if you're not, it's also the right time. Like if you're not part of our online spaces, this is the time to join them. I host a Wheel of the Year book club through Patreon that you can join at the dedicated tier or higher and get membership to the book club, as well as all the other benefits, the virtual library, the exclusive videos, the meditations, etc. Yeah. And I also have my Facebook group. I go live every Wednesday in Seekers of the Sacred Wild on Facebook. So there's so many free spaces. And then there's the deep work. There's the containers that we're both putting together and the classes that we teach that you can connect even deeper with community and get to know people there. Because it is so important to not be alone in these darker times.
Well, and you were talking about the whole thinking ahead portion of things. I think that is something that gets missed. Like, I know like this time of the year, we're heading into January, New Year's resolutions. And I feel like this is where we get stuck with the thinking ahead. People start thinking ahead. They start thinking like, okay, what do they want to change in their life? How do they want to make their life better? But then we get stuck because we don't have that support system, the right support system behind that. So, say you are looking to drop 10 pounds in 2025. So what support system are you surrounding yourself with? Yeah. What community is going to support you there? Because 9 times out of 10, and this isn't true for everybody, but I think in most households, if you live by yourself, you are automatically are only supporting yourself. You are your support. But if you live in a family group or family unit who has well-established bad habits or bad eating habits, their nutrition is not so great, and then you try to change that up for everybody, you're going to hit a lot of resistance. So you need that community behind you to make that change. And then again, if you're looking for spiritual goals, you're looking ahead at 2025 to reach certain spiritual or personal growth goals, those are going to be so personal and so specific to the type of goal that you're trying to achieve. One of the questions that I ask my students is, where are you going to be in 6 months? What's your life going to look like in 6 months? What do you want for yourself? How do you want to transform yourself? And then looking at how you plan to do that. Mm-hmm. Who's there to support you? And like you were saying, we have the free spaces. So we have the Rebel Mystic community, which has got free spaces plus the academy, which is my mid-tier access level. But then I'm introducing the Gardens of the Mystic. January 16th is our first live meeting. And this is where we start looking at that next 6 months. This is the first 6 months of an 18-month program. And everybody is so excited for it. I have so many people signed up for it already. They're ready to go.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's so much fun because everybody's like, ooh, can we do this? Can we do that? So we're like launching ideas off of each other. So this is where, for me especially, this was my past self looking ahead. This will help me, and I'm sure it'll help everyone else in this container to take that dark time of the year and make something progressive at it, make something bright and shiny and cheery and supportive at it, because we're all working towards a very specific goal. And this is a very specific spiritual goal where we are looking to build ourselves up as leaders so that we can go out into the world and lead others. And that's what this 18-month program does. And each month I'm going to walk everyone through a metaphorical garden related to the topic that we're talking about that month. So in this, we're taking those dark time of the year and we're building off of it. We're nurturing it. The primal sea of creation is where we're starting. And this is what I'm talking about when I say, like, who's supporting you? Who is there with you to reach these goals? You know, maybe it is just you want to read more books in 2025. So join a book club. What book club are you going to join that's going to read the type of books that you want to read? So right now is a great time to look at what your future self might need and to keep that perspective, not just lose it as soon as you make your New Year resolution and you're going through and it starts to get hard. You start losing your grasp on it, but every day touching on it. Okay, who am I going to connect with today or this week that'll help me continue with that goal? Yeah. And then when we start making those goals habits, then we start changing ourselves. And then in 6 months, we're a better person. We're a different person. We have made strides. We have lost the weight, or we have gained a new perspective, or we have infused into our lives a new routine that helps us feel more nurtured and supported. And I think that was a good point to make, is like, think of what your future self might need, the tissues in the pocket type thing.
This is a secret ad, only meant to be heard by those who can hear it. This is a spell, my hand reaching out for you to take hold of the red thread of the priestess. The red thread is a 9-week journey into the sacred lineage of Inanna, Isis, Aphrodite, Mary Magdalene, Ishtar, Cybele, and others. Together we will walk the spirals of their stories, exploring their power as both love and war, creatrix and destroyer. These goddesses call you to step boldly into your own power, to embrace your role in weaving a new era. In times of upheaval, their wisdom guides the way. The thread is waiting. Will you follow it? For more information, visit seekingnumina.com/theredthread. Nowhere does the holiday season like the United States. What I love, and this is what I want to speak on, and we've touched on this in the past with our midwinter musings, and I know we've done episodes about winter before, but something that's really hit me differently this year is the way the Christmas spirit. Now, we say that in common, we say it colloquially, but the Christmas spirit is a literal spirit. I've been working with that energy the past few weeks. We went to Longwood Gardens, Leandra, myself, and Megan Plummer, who co-hosts the Cosmic Theater Mystery School with me. We went to Longwood Gardens. It's our tradition every year. And we went into, if you've been to Longwood Gardens, they have a massive conservatory, and in that conservatory is actually an organ. And I don't think I told you this, but I've been reflecting on it ever since. When we were watching the organ go, because the organ, it's an organ, so it's not like you watch the pipes move, but the pipes are behind a fabric there, and the fabric kind of like undulates as these pipes go. And in that room this year, they had a bunch of Christmas trees, and one of the trees was stunning. They used fairy lights and natural elements to decorate the tree. And as the organ was going, and it felt the way spirits, if you raise energy in your magic, which we all should be, that's what magic is. It's raising energy to direct it. But when you raise energy, it undulates through your body in a very similar way, at least for me. So as I was watching this going, I just was thinking about it as like, music is energy being raised. And I just was thinking about all the things I love about the holiday season. And it is such a secular thing. Like, so many people get in their heads about like, oh, I shouldn't celebrate Christmas because I'm a witch. It's like, look, dude, like Jesus was not even born around this time. Like, it is a pagan time. This is our time, y'all. It's all good. Show up, enjoy it, frosty, etc. You name it, enjoy it. But so the Christmas spirit, as I'm looking at this tree and the beautiful lights, as the music's playing, I wish I remember what song it was. I think it was Let It Snow. I felt the Christmas spirit enter my body. Like I was so open to it. I was like, God, this feels so good. The smell of the fresh evergreen, the lights against the holly, the music that, you know, an organ just vibrates through your body. And I felt the Christmas spirit. And ever since then, I've had the Christmas spirit. And if you're listening to this and you haven't felt that spirit in a long time, remember what it was like. Like, remember what it was like as a kid, like, you know, to have the holiday parties in school and like everybody brings some treats and you get to learn about each other's cultures and try the different things and the different recipes of a chocolate chip cookie and all those cool things that happen around the holidays. We lose it little by little as we get older if we don't consciously connect. And the Christmas spirit is a literal spirit that wants to connect with us. That I read A Christmas Carol every single year. And my favorite quote is in the very beginning of the book when Scrooge's nephew visits him at his shop and he's like, I'm still going to show up and invite you to Christmas, even though you don't believe in Christmas. Yeah. And he says, Uncle, this is the time of year, the only time of year where man looks upon one another, not as enemies or shades to be ignored, but as fellow travelers to the grave. And that's what it is. That's what the Christmas spirit gifts us, is this ability to recognize in strangers a sameness and a connectedness. And it's so special. And it's something that we can carry through the year. Like, it sounds so hokey and like Hallmarky, but literally that spirit of, I see you. You are a person with the same struggles, fears, interests, loves, wants as me. And I see you. And I want you to have them. And I want you to want me to have them. And we can just nurture that in each other. And it's just really special. And so think about that a little bit this year. You're like how does the Christmas spirit want you to show up? So something I've been noticing lately, especially in the Witch Codes, which is the container that's wrapping up actually already on Monday, which is crazy. It's been an 8-week journey of deep diving into the codes of witchcraft, the transmissions I've received over the years that I've now been able to impart upon students. Every student in that container and every student I have come across in workshops, my one-on-one clients, we all, myself included, we always seem to be called to the dark goddesses. And people are always asking me why. I'm an elementary school teacher, or I'm a stay-at-home mom, or I'm even me, like I'm an author. Like why the dark goddesses for that purpose, right? And something I've come to understand about the dark goddesses is that they aren't dark in the sense that we think of them. The reason they've been labeled as such is because of the patriarchy. The patriarchy wanting to subjugate them as other, as negative, as evil, and all these things that when we dive into the teachings of witchcraft and spiritual practices in general, we learn really quickly that the dichotomy of good and evil just does not serve us. That it's so much more important to recognize that everything exists on a spectrum, and that spectrum contains multitudes that we can work with, and that deities represent the frequencies found along this spectrum of energy. And dark goddess energy represents feminine drive. It represents action. It represents social change. It represents destruction, the dismantling of old systems, and it represents the creation of new ones, of communities that support despite what the world might want that community to do instead. Communities and individuals that are ready to step into their leadership of basically saying, I'm going to be different. I'm going to do what I'm called to do because I know I am different. I know I am the person who can show up, who can stay calm in a situation, who can bring this gift to the table. Knowing who you are is a radical act in the times we live in. It is a radical act to say, I know who I am and I'm actually going to be that person. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And that is who the dark goddesses come to. That is who they want to work with.
We
And
also have to remember that like most dark goddesses really aren't dark.
Oh, no.
They're just...
Aphrodite is a dark goddess, y'all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Caradwyn is considered dark. Yeah, there's so many. Even Arianrod is considered dark. But it's because of how the patriarchy... Ereshkigal is considered dark. But
yeah,
really,
Queen of the Underworld, Inanna's sister.
Exactly. But look at what Inanna did. Inanna is dark. And she's supposed to be the queen of the stars. So, I mean, there's this... It's too... We can't be dichotomous. We can't just say, oh, they're this or that, because that would be like labeling us. Like, I'm only a good person. No, I'll cut a bitch. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not violent, but there are times when I'm like, okay, no, I'm angry now, and I have every right to be angry, and so do you. Like, we have the right to own who we are in each moment of it every day, and that can change. You know, maybe you started off your day as being very uplifted and bright and bubbly, but then as the day goes on, your energy wanes, you start getting a little cranky. You're allowed that. You're allowed to move through whoever you are at any given time. Yeah. But the key is to move through it, not get stuck.
And that's exactly why the dark goddess comes to us, is because so many of us are called to this higher place of showing up in bigger ways. Yeah. But we don't know how to do that without moving through it. Or we don't know how to do it without, well, and we shouldn't actually do it without being angry. We worry that if we go into, that if we lean into the anger, that somehow it's going to pervert us or make us worse.
And that's the patriarchy talking.
Exactly. When actually anger is the tool of the creatrix and destroyer.
Yes.
That is Inanna. Yes. That is the Morrigan, the Kaliak. Yes. It is Aphrodite, believe it or not. It goes all the way back, and Hecate especially. And if you're being called to that path, if there's a lot of dark goddess energy that wants your attention right now, Persephone is another one who's coming in strongly, the red thread is for you. And that is my container launching January 22nd. It is the first time, I'm a little shaky sharing it because I've been like so nervous to officially get it out there. I've been whispering it around a little bit, but it's official. But it is the first time I'm going to be sharing the knowledge Inanna's given me in the past 10 years. Like there's some chants that I have never shared with a single other person that she wrote with me. There are some prayers and some drum beats that I'm going to be teaching coming into this container. And it's going to be 9 weeks of a deep dive into who the dark goddess is that's calling you, how she's ready to help you and guide your path. And most importantly, what does that mean for you as a community member and leader? Because we always have to be both. Like, I wouldn't feel like I could run containers if I hadn't had transformative experiences within them. And I know about myself that I'm going to always be within them in order to best facilitate them. There's this kind of, it kind of honestly in my head is similar to in The Magician's Nephew, the first book. It's like a prequel to C.S. Lewis's series, The Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah. When they're in the wood and they have to jump into the little portals to get to each different world. And in those worlds, they might be different people. They might have different roles. They might not even know where they are, or it might be an abandoned world, or it might be a world where there is an unbelievable richness of culture that they get to drop into and experience.
It always reminds me of the Stargate series.
That's out of my depth. I did not watch Stargate SG-1, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I did not watch that one.
Whenever I watch Stargate, like it brings me back to that book.
Now that makes me kind of want to watch it. Yeah, I love that. That's really how containers work. They're like these crazy contained spaces of exponential growth, and like seeing the relationships, the lifelong relationships that have developed in the witch codes. I can't even begin to know how much more powerful that's going to be when we come together for the dark goddess, all with the intention. You know, the witch codes, we all had different reasons for joining. Mm-hmm. For this, we're all joining for the dark goddess. That impetus is going to be huge. So if you are being called this month if you feel the chaos surrounding your anger and you're ready to direct that and get rid of the chaos and instead focus on channeling the chaos, yeah, that's the space for you. So reach out. I'm definitely keen to hear from you if you're interested in joining. And yeah, let's set up a call to make sure that you really, you know, like if you're like on the fence or you need some assurances or you're like, is this even a dark goddess? I don't know. Like, let's talk. Let's talk.
It's ready. You don't have to wait any longer. You have been waiting for this. You've been asking me for this for months. And it's ready. So the Gardens of the Mystic program, the program that everyone has been yearning for, is now available. You can go to the show notes to get more information or visit leandrawitchwood.com. But this is your certification program. This is your initiation program. This is the program you have been looking for that moves you beyond the cusp of beginnerhood, of that novice. And we will dive in to each garden, metaphorically, of course, and we will learn those esoteric nuances that you crave, those connections you crave, the connections to those archetypes of the protector, of the mystic, of the seer, the garden of the gods, where you will join with your higher power and the powers of the universe to live your most magical and authentic life. So if you're ready for this, if you're ready to jump in, the first 6 months are starting in January. And this is part 1, Sanctuary 1 of a 3-part 18-month program. So if you're ready to jump in, go over to the show notes or go to leandrawitchwood.com and get more information. Blessed be. So before we wrap up this episode, we have some recipes that we want to share with you. I have my recipe that I shared with Wendy Mata and her group for the Winter Witches Fest. And it's a tea recipe that I created just for this holiday season. It's actually not one of my recipes that I sell on my website, the witchwoodteahouse.com. So this one's a completely new recipe that I created just for this season for the purpose of sharing with you. And you can download that. The link will be in the show notes. So you can download that and try it yourself. And always, whenever you're doing teas, it's to your flavor preference. I know we like to make things as linear as possible. Like, oh, I have to boil the water to this temperature and I have to, steep it for exactly this amount of time. That's not how tea works. Think of our ancestors brewing tea, or even the Chinese method of brewing tea. They didn't have thermometers. They didn't have specialized kettles. They literally boiled the water, poured it over the leaves, and let it sit for however long they wanted to sit. And so there's no hard, fast rules to brewing tea. I always recommend brew it to your flavor preference. Now, with that said, it is a good idea to know your ingredients. So cinnamon is one of those fun ingredients where you don't get the flavor out of it just from brewing it. You have to let it sit and you have to let it cool down. That's when the flavor is extracted.
Interesting.
So yeah. So this is why this is one of the things I'm discussing in the Gardens of the Mystic, especially when we hit the Green Witch path. And the Green Witch's garden is really knowing your herbs and knowing your spices, knowing your ingredients, because certain things act a certain way. Like calendula, you always want to use the whole flower head. You don't want just the petals. That's not going to do any good. So these are like little nuances that I teach and that you should know about your ingredients when you're using them. So with this tea, definitely like brew it, let it sit, and then let it cool down a little bit so you get that strong cinnamon flavor. And again, the link will be in the bio for you to download that.
Awesome. I love that. I'm always looking for a new tea, especially we have a bay window here in Pennsylvania, and it's great. I love it. It's like where we put the tree and everything. Yeah. But it lets in so much cold air. Yes. So I always have a nice warm something or other.
Yeah. And this one has rose hips in it, so it's really good for immune support. Yeah. It's a great tea.
And not to go too off topic, but aren't rose hips also good for perimenopause?
Mm-hmm. They're high in vitamin C. They're really good. It's kind of like, that's why I like nettle and rose hip tea, because it's so nourishing. That's one of my favorite teas, especially if I've been outside, shoveling snow, doing work in the garden, or even if I go to a festival and it's hot. Anytime I feel drained physically, like nettle and rose hips are my go-to for replenishing my body.
Wow.
It's better than like a Powerade or
That's what I was going to say. It's like
Gatorade
but not.
No,
but
it's
no
far
sugars.
better.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, when we start working with whole herbs, not processed stuff, not flavored. I hate flavorings because none of them are natural. Even though they say natural flavorings, they're not.
Hate that.
They're made in the same factories as all the other chemicals. They're not natural. But when we start working with whole herbs, especially in the form of tea, our body is intelligent with these herbs. They work together. So our body knows what to extract, and the herb has its own intelligence that it knows what to give our body. So our body can naturally just kind of, okay, I need this from this, and I need this from that. And then it puts it together and uses it.
The body is so amazing. So amazing. So the recipe I'm going to share with you all is for your pets. So if you're like me, I feel really sad that like I have all these fun treats and they're eating their same gross little pellet things. And we actually have, in Greece we have a cat colony, but here we actually still have an outdoor cat. She comes every time we're in town. I think she's just an emissary of the land here. I think she's just, And so I see that as giving offerings. So we feed her twice a day. She has a warm heated house. She has a little scratching pad. She has a lot of stuff out there. And so I make treats for her. Like she gets like, chicken fat that I cook up for her and stuff like that. But our indoor cats don't eat any of that stuff. So these cookies, these are cat cookies. I have actually not made them yet. I just found the recipe and I was like, I have to share this on the podcast. So hopefully they will eat this. Hopefully your cats will eat this. If they don't, there's definitely outdoor cats that will happily eat this. You could even donate them to a local shelter. And if you wanted to switch this for dogs, you would just not add the catnip. And instead of tuna, you could do canned chicken or peanut butter. Leandra was like, what about peanut butter? I think that would work really well too. And be less gross to make. I don't know. It's a little gross cooking with food, like hot
cooking
food,
with
but
fish.
making cookies. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a really simple recipe. You do it at 350 Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius in the oven. And you need a half cup of oat flour, which if you don't have oat flour, if you have oats, you just grind it up in a blender.
Yep.
And it makes oat flour. Then you do a third cup of pure pumpkin puree, which is super good for their digestive system.
Yes.
Pumpkin's great for animals. And then for a cat, you use a can of tuna with the liquid. It wants the liquid. If you're going to use peanut butter, I would guess maybe like a half cup of peanut butter and then see where you're at. Maybe if you feel like it needs more, add a little more. And then you add a teaspoon of dried catnip if it's for the kitties. And that's it. You mix it up and then ball it up, pop it on some trays. You could also roll it out and use shapes.
Oh,
and have some fun with that.
Get some little like fishy shapes. I don't know, the cookie cutters.
And I also was thinking of like maybe making it into like little bite-sized pieces. So they're almost like treats instead. Yeah. But idea. I thought that sounded really nice. So I wanted to share that with everybody because I don't know. It's nice to treat the animals too.
It is. Yeah. I know my cats are so spoiled.
I know. They're not getting Christmas gifts on the day. They have gotten so many new things lately, like with Black Friday. Day. And I was going to wait till Christmas and then I was like, what am I doing? They're cats. So I just gave it to them.
Yeah. I know. They're cats. They don't care about the date.
Yeah. They're not like, today's the day. Like,
no.
They wake us up at the same time every day. At least we don't have any of those like little kids like to come in very early on Christmas morning.
I know. I'm really like especially spoiling them because I took them to the vet and they got their shots and they have not been feeling good the past couple of days. Like just hiding and not eating. They're only drinking water. And so Molly finally like came out of her little hole today and she was a little more snuggly and active. So I'm like, oh, you sweetie, you need some love. So of course I'm spoiling her to death.
Now you can make her some cookies.
Yeah, I'll make her some cookies and she'll be happy because she eats everything, including the peanut butter. Weird cat.
Make her some peanut butter cookies, apparently.
I know. She'd probably love them. She would love them. Oh my gosh, she's so weird.
Well, to everybody listening, I hope you have an absolutely magical holiday season. I hope
Yes.
all of the things that need to happen before the end of the year happen so that you can fully step into 2025 rejuvenated and ready, and hopefully with some time in January to enjoy the solitude and the stillness and listen to the wisdom that might want to come forward, and start feeling your trajectory for 2025.
Happy holidays, everyone. And make winter, that good time that you can really look back and go, hey, I did that. And I'm proud of myself. Merry meet,
merry part, and merry meet again.
Thank you for joining us on the Magic Kitchen podcast. Please visit my website, leandrawitchwood.com, for news, information, and more episodes.
I'm Elise Wells, and I can be found at Seeking Numina on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and seekingnumina.com. That's Seeking, Numina.